Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. Using an AWS EC2 instance as the cloud server to host a website comes with many benefits. It provides full control over the server, just like your personal computer. It is also easily scalable in terms of computational capacity. AWS also provides useful dashboards for performance monitoring and optimization of the EC2 instances. Today, we will be discussing how to cloud host a containerized website at AWS for free for up to 1 year. We will be using the free tier services EC2 and EBS of AWS to host the website. Also, we will be containerizing the website with Docker and serve it with Nginx. I hope the journey will be interesting, so let's dig in. Let us discuss the prerequisites first before jumping in. I'm assuming that you are already having an Ubuntu EC2 instance at AWS up and running. If you don't, then you may follow the video link in the description below to configure and launch an Ubuntu EC2 instance for free up to 1 year. The free tier instance will be good enough for a small scale web application or website like a blog or a portfolio site. In the description below, I will also add the link to the complete tutorial video where we will walk you through all the steps from configuring and launching an EC2 instance to hosting of a containerized website and securing it with SSL certificate. So you may watch that video as well to get the complete hands-on experience. Now let's go straight to the EC2 instance terminal. We will have a look at the architecture that we are going to deploy here to containerize the WordPress site first and then serving it with Nginx. So let's have a look at the architecture. So this is the architecture looks like. There are two basic components in this architecture, the Docker Compose and the global Nginx. The Docker Compose is the configuration for three components, the MySQL database, our WordPress, and finally the local Nginx. This configuration is also useful for deploying multiple websites in the same server. Here, there is a global Nginx, which will manage all the websites that we will be hosting. In this instance, the Nginx will proxy the port 80 to a unique port 8060 for this particular website. That's why whenever a particular website is required to connect to internet, it will have its unique port. And that way, we will maintain unique port for every website so that we can serve multiple website from different ports. So that's it. The browser will search by this domain name and it will connect to first global Nginx of our server and it will proxy the port 80 to the unique port of this website, which is 8060, and the WordPress website will be loaded. That is the idea. So let's get started by creating the Docker Compose. Before even creating the Docker Compose, we first have to install some of those packages that we need. We will start by installing the Nginx. So let's install Nginx. This command sudo apt install Nginx. Okay, tab. Okay. Now let's see if Nginx is properly installed. Yeah. Now we will be installing the Docker. To install Docker, we will first have to add the Docker's official GPG key to the key rings we will be installing the CS certificates curl. Once that is installed, we will install the permissions required for the directory etc apt keyrings. Then we will be downloading the Docker key, the GPG key, and put it in our keyrings directory. Once that is done, let's change the permission of the keyring file using this chmod command. Once that is done, then let's add the key repository to the apt sources by this command, and then we will run the apt-get update time. That's it. Then we can now install all the Docker packages required from this apt-get command. So we will be installing the Docker C, Docker IO, Docker build X plugin, and Docker compose plugin. Let's go ahead and hit OK, tab OK. That's it. Docker is installed. To check, let's just type Docker version. It is installed. Now we need to install Docker compose as well from the apt command. Let's say sudo apt install Docker compose. Yes. And hit OK a couple of times. And that's it. The Docker compose is also installed. Let's check its version to confirm. Compose version. It is also installed. Then what we can do now is to prepare the Docker config file. Okay, now to create the Docker config files, we will first create the repository. So let's make a directory, make dir. Then the folder name could be the domain name, the service dot, and now what we can do, can go there. Now we are in. Now it is empty, but we will be first creating the Docker compose YML file by using a nano command. Compose YML. Now we will be writing the configurations here. copying the configuration now over here. All these resources I will add at the bottom of this video in the description section so that you guys can follow along. We have three services: the database, which is a MySQL database, and you can give the container name according to your wish. The volume will be the var/lib/MySQL. Environment is MySQL database is WordPress. Then the in file will contain some of these credentials for this database, which we will be creating in a minute. Then in the WordPress section, the WordPress service will have all the WordPress details. By the way, you see these variables over here. All these variables will be defined in the environment file, which we will create in a minute. Finally, we will have this web server, which is our Nginx image that we will be downloading is this one. We are setting the container name as our website name, and we are proxying the internet port 80 to 8090, which is, or let's say 8060 in this case. Which is a unique port for our web service. You see, two volumes will be added to this web service. One is the WordPress, which will, the directory which will contain all the WordPress files. It is important because it will serve the WordPress site itself. And another important data is the Nginx configuration, because it will have all the configuration details of this local Nginx, which we will also be creating in a minute. And that's it. Once all the services are defined, let's just save it. Control X, yes, hit enter. Now our Docker compose.yml is ready. Once the Docker compose YML is ready, let's create the environment. So we will write nano.env, and we will define the variables over here: MySQL root password, MySQL password, and MySQL user. The passwords are kept simple here, but you can change it according to your necessity. Then just save it. Yes. And then finally, we will be creating the configuration file for Nginx. To do that, let's create a directory first. dir conf. Let's okay, now let's get into the directory. Once you are in, we will create the configuration file. So nano nginx.conf. Oh, sorry. Then we will paste the configuration of Nginx over here. As we can see, it simply listens to port 80 and serve this website. And there are other essential configuration for WordPress is added here. Link to all these files will be in the description. Let's save this now. Yes. Now we can go back and our configuration file is prepared for Nginx. So let's now compile the Docker Compose file with this Docker Compose up command. It will create the containers, Docker containers for the three services that the Docker Compose file contains. So let's start. So the database container, the Nginx container, which is the web server, and the WordPress container is now being downloaded. And after that, they will be created. The images are now being downloaded. And then they are created and the containers have started. So let's check them out with the docker ps command sudo ps. There we are. We have 3 containers up and running. Now all we have to do is to connect this particular IP address of our instance to our domain. So my domain is at Namecheap. So I will now go there and connect the domain to this particular IP address. So now we have entered the control panel of our domain, which is the Namecheap platform. Here, I already have a domain analyticalman.com. So I will be now creating a subdomain and map it to the IP address of this EC2 instance. So let's give the host name, which is in our case service, the service.analyticalman.com. So the host name is here, service, and the IP address is exactly what we have here. So let's copy it and then paste it here. And then all we have to do is to save all these changes. Once done, then checking whether this subdomain service.analyticalman.com is now connected to this particular IP address. Let's go to the browser and search by your website name. And there we go. It connected to the global Nginx. However, it is not yet connecting us to the website, the WordPress site that we just containerized and launched, because this global Nginx that we installed in that instance is not configured yet to connect to that WordPress. So now let's go back and configure the global Nginx so that it can connect to our containerized website. To do so, let's go back to our command prompt. And here, to configure the global Nginx, we will go to the site available option, site available directory, which is here, etc/nginx/site available. There, for the website service.analyticalman.com, we'll be creating a configuration file. And this configuration file, I'm pasting now. This configuration file will be telling exactly what we want is listen to port 80. If the server name is service.analyticalman.com, then proxy it to this 8090 port of the localhost. That way, we will be able to connect to the Nginx. But I'm sorry, there is one mistake. In our case, it is 8060. So let's keep it 60. And save it. X, Y, enter. I see. Because, so I'm going no to edit anything here. You need sudo permission. Can paste, I believe. Yep. And save it. X, yes, oh, saved. Now, once the configuration file is created, the next task is to create a soft link between the site enabled and site available. Currently, we are at site available directory. We will now go to site enabled directory, and then we will create a soft link between these two directories using this command. It will create a soft link between site available and site enabled. Once that is done, then let's go back to site available. And then now check if the configuration setup is all right. Yeah. Nginx is saying that configuration setup is all right. So now simply restart the Nginx. That's it. Now Nginx knows, the global Nginx knows that if port 80, the Ethernet port, receives the request for service.analyticalman.com, it needs to proxy it to the port 8060. So for the simplicity, let's go back to where we were initially. And if you check the Docker Compose right now over here, no need to edit, just need to see. So we can use a cat command. And there we go. Port 80 is forwarded to 8060. That's it. The global Nginx configuration is done. So let's refresh this page now. And voila, you are connected to WordPress. Now, before we conclude, there is one more thing that we might need to consider is that the website is still not secure. So to secure this website, we might need to install a certbot library in our EC2 instance, which will allow TPS traffic to our website and make our website secure. So let's do that.